Was the Turing test passed in 2012 and 2014? A lot of people seem to think so at the time, even though there was very little good evidence to believe that. And a lot of people still think so today, even though there's very little good evidence to believe that. In fact, I was just reading on the comments on a YouTube video, and somebody said, matter of fact, oh yeah, don't you know, the Turing test, that's nothing new. That was passed successfully back in 2012 and 2014. So is that really true? You know, a lot of people think that. But it's important. It's an important question because let's say you're in a bubble, in an opaque bubble, and you're magically transported to a new territory, and then you look outside, and you don't know. You don't even realize you're in a new place because you never looked outside in the first place. You didn't know where you were in the first place. So if you're in a new place later, you're not going to be very amazed by it because you don't know the difference. So before we address the question of whether the Turing test was passed, it's helpful to know what the Turing test is in the first place. And for that, I turn to the old PBS documentary, The Machine That Changed the World. And there was a special episode on artificial intelligence, and it covered the Turing test. So let's take a look at that.
In 1950, the British computer pioneer Alan Turing had speculated that one day machines would think. He proposed a test, the Turing test, which a machine would have to pass before it could be considered truly intelligent. Imagine you were sitting in a room communicating via a screen with an entity somewhere else. It may be a person or a computer program. By question and answer, you have to determine whether you are talking to a human or a machine. This entity doesn't need eyes or limbs. In principle, it doesn't need a body at all. All it has to do to beat the challenge is to use language intelligently. One of the first computer programs which sought to use language convincingly in this way was Joseph Weizenbaum's program ELIZA. Here is a conversation between a computer, the capital letters, and a person.
How do you do? Please tell me your problem.
Women are all alike.
In what way?
They are always bugging us about something or other.
Can you think of a specific example?
Although it seems to understand the words, it is in fact based on a series of tricks. Eliza understands nothing about the meaning behind the words. Often, Eliza just turns a reply into another question.
Well, my girlfriend made me come here.
Your girlfriend made you come here?
But it is geared to look for important words like mother, father, or dream. Then it will respond more aggressively.
She and my mother value therapy.
Tell me more about your family.
And once you realize this, it can be easily fooled.
My opinion is that necessity is the mother of invention.
Tell me more about your family.
Such a program could not possibly pass the Turing test and could not be said to use language intelligently. Eliza was a light-hearted foray into a field which was full of difficulty, for remarkably, it would turn out that the human ability to understand spoken or written sentences was vastly more complex than solving calculus problems.
Even if you take a simple everyday sentence like, Mary saw the bicycle in the store window, she wanted it. It might refer to the bicycle, the store window, the store, and which it refers to depends not so much on English as on your knowledge of what people want and don't want. If I had said, she saw the bicycle through the store window, she looked at it longingly and pressed her nose up against it. That second it probably refers to the store window and not the bicycle. Now you have to bring in knowledge of human anatomy and the fact that people emotionally like to be near things that they want, even if they can't have them, and so forth.
They hadn't reckoned with ambiguity when they set out to use computers to translate languages.
Okay, well, as we know, artificial intelligence has mastered the problem of translation of languages a long time ago. I mean, we have Google Translate and other translators that do a pretty good job. And so that had to come, of course, before the Turing test, because the Turing test requires not just you're translating something, but actually understanding completely the meaning of something and then responding to it intelligently. So, was the Turing test passed in 2012 and 2014? And why do people think that it was? Well, people think that it was basically because Kevin Warwick, a professor at the University of Reading, said that it was. And you know, Kevin Warwick, PhD, he's supposedly the first transhumanist because he had a microchip or something stuck in his arm, and so that he claims that makes him a transhumanist or a cyborg. You know, PhD often stands for piled high and deep. And he claimed back in 2012-2014 that the Turing test was passed. And the chatbot that he tested was called Eugene Gooseman, which in reality was not a very good chatbot. It was not particularly impressive. It was basically just overhyped from beginning to end. But a lot of media outlets picked up on the claim that it had successfully passed a legitimate Turing test, basically because it was sponsored, the test was sponsored by a university, so people just uncritically accepted as gospel fact like this one. And that's why a lot of people fell for the claim that it had actually passed the Turing test. But one of the better news reports was the following, which came in 2014.
One supercomputer achieved a milestone in artificial intelligence, tricking judges into believing it was human and allegedly becoming the first computer to pass the Turing test.
Scientists at the Royal Society carried out a test devised by the man known as the father of computing, Alan Turing. A computer program mimicked a conversation and fooled 30% of the humans listening to it.
Researchers at the University of Reading developed the program. Their winning machine mimics a 13-year-old Ukrainian boy named Eugene Gooseman. According to the Daily Caller, he comes complete with the immature personality of a teen to match. The humans talking to the computer were judges at the Turing Test 2014 competition. In 1950, Turing speculated artificial intelligence could be achieved at that benchmark of duping 30% of humans. The team from Reading says the achievement signals a new era for combating cybercrime and delivering better customer services to those online. Others are not so impressed.
A machine has passed a test by tricking more than 30% of judges into believing that the machine is not a machine but a human. A teenage human, 13, but still a human nonetheless, if 13-year-olds are human.
However, Shepard Smith might be onto something. Critics wonder if Eugene's traits and backstory help the computer too much. The bratty teen portrayed by the computer claims to know everything, but had the excuse of not knowing everything because he's only 13. Plus, English is his second language, meaning any computer errors could be written off as something lost in translation.
So, more proof that the Turing test was not passed in 2012 or 2014 is the fact that Ray Kurzweil, who is one of the most well-known futurists and who's really a big believer in artificial intelligence and is now an engineer in Google, well, he placed a bet with Mitch Kapor, who is the founder of Lotus Corporation, and Kurzweil bet that the Turing test would be passed by the year 2029, and Mitch Kapor bet that it wouldn't. So if we look on Kurzweil's website, he talks about it, and let's take a look at what he has to say about this. He says, "I have had a long-term wager with Mitch Kapor in which I predicted that a computer program would pass the Turing test by 2029, and he predicted that this would not happen. This was the first long-term wager on the Long Now website. The bet called for $20,000 to be donated from us to the charity of the winner's choice." So $20,000, that's a lot of money. So he's got a lot of money hanging on this bet. And he goes on to say, as a result, messages have been streaming in from around the world, congratulating me for having won the bet. However, I think this is premature. I am disappointed that Professor Warwick, with whom I agree on many things, would make this statement. And then, a little further down the page, Kurzweil shares some of his interview with the Eugene Goosman chatbot that he had in 2014, which really wasn't very impressive. And some of the examples of that are when Kurzweil says, "I live in the capital of the United States. Do you know where that is?" And the chatbot says, "Every nerd knows that the capital of the United States is Washington." Okay, so far so good. But then a couple lines down, Kurzweil says, "I live in the capital of the country that built the Great Wall." And the chatbot says, "Oh, tell me more about capital. I like to learn about different places." And then, even worse, Kurzweil says, he asks the chatbot, "How old were you when you started to wear glasses?" And the chatbot says, "No, I was not. How can you think so?" So the remarkable thing about this is that Alan Turing proposed his famous Turing test back in 1950. So that was 72 years ago. So it took 72 years for us to reach the point where we are now, where an AI is actually capable of passing his test. And the most remarkable thing about this is that the term artificial intelligence wasn't even coined until 1956. So Turing came out with his tests 6 years before the whole field of artificial intelligence was even given a name. So how far have we come since 2014 and the days of Eugene Goosman? Well, we've come to where we are now with these large language model AIs that are just light years ahead of anything that's come before, including Eugene Goosman, Eliza, or any of the others. I mean, it's a totally different ball game here. Not even in the same ballpark here. So we've reached a point where I can have a debate with an AI, and it can actually do a better job of debating than most people actually can. In fact, I may even have started a trend, because I now notice that Ben Shapiro is now debating AIs. So thanks for watching, and talk to you later.